here at the Chasewater Railway at Chasewater Heath Station. You may remember these. We did these a few years ago. Well, I'm here to introduce our new project. It's a multiple unit. It's a bit noisy, but it's coming around the corner right now. So, what is a Class 142? Well, BR knew them as Pacers. Down in the southwest, they were known as skippers. Enthusiasts often called them nodding donkeys because of the way they rode up and down on jointed track. Some people even call them the worst train in the world. But basically, they're two Leyland National car bodies, extended in width, mounted on freight wagon chassis. So come with me, and we'll take a look around and see what makes up a Pacer. So the railbus programme dates back actually to the 1970s, when BR and Leyland were looking at ways of working together to produce low-cost vehicles for local branch lines. The initial train was called the Leyland Experimental Vehicle, which was introduced in 1977 and used two Leyland National bodies bolted together and fitted on the high-speed freight vehicle one chassis, or a derivative of it. These were the second production versions after the Class 141s, which were built for West Yorkshire. The Pacers, the 142s, were introduced at Neville Hill and Newton Heath depots and at Lara down in the southwest between 1986 and 1987. Now, their introduction wasn't the best, has to be said, and we'll talk about that in a minute. This is the heart of the Class 142, with the engine and the gearbox. So when originally built, they had a Leyland engine and a self-changing gears gearbox. However, they were not the best combination. The self-changing gears gearbox, in fact, was a complete disaster. At one point, a third of the fleet was out of traffic, waiting for warranty repairs to be undertaken on those parts. And then, a few years later, the Leyland engine was taken out of production. So BR made the decision to change both aspects of this railbus, and they moved to a Voith gearbox, which had already been tested on a previous Class 142 and a Class 141. And the engine became a Cummins, which was the same as being fitted to the Sprinter DMUs at the same time, making it easier for spares and stuff like that. Hidden under here, under the radiator and the fuel tank, there's this red bar. It's quite interesting that when these were built, this wasn't here. It was the reason it was added. When the trains first went into service, they actually disappeared from the signaller's panels. They weren't triggering the track circuits. That's actually a problem that affected a lot of the second generation DMUs when they were introduced. So this was a simple solution. This is called a track circuit actuator. And this basically makes the train visible on track circuits and enables them to trigger the signals or the circuits that make the signals work. Derby RTC was a world leader in vehicle dynamics in the 1960s and 1970s, basically the wheel-rail interface. And this is one of the fruits of their labours, the HSFV1 chassis, which ended up basically under the Pacer. And you can see it's quite simple. It's just a pedal suspension with two vertical dampers and a horizontal damper here. These were the final iteration of the various designs that had been developed through the various single car prototypes, the Class 140 and then through the Class 141. As well as the engine and gearbox, the doors also caused big problems on the Class 142s when they were new. These are actually replacements. When they were built, they had a double leaf opening door. And when they were passing by a faster train, they'd even open sometimes by mistake. They could easily be pushed open and they leaked badly. So we've come around to the other end of the Class 142, and it gives us an opportunity to talk about the coupler. The coupler was a change from the Class 140 and the Class 141. It used a standard BSI coupler, which made them compatible with the sprinters, like the Class 150, the 155, and the Class 156. Many other areas you see on the front of here are fairly standard, like the light clusters here. The other area of change was this, which is a small louver, which was added later in the course of the lives to some of the units. There are a few other external changes to the Class 142 over the course of their lives. So this is actually a first phase unit, a Class 142 naught. So it wasn't built with a display, but this is actually the latest style, the smaller display which was built with the last 50. For the first 50, they had a flat panel here that had the display behind. There was also Mersey Travels units which had a dot matrix display. Anyway, it's getting pretty cold out here, so let's go inside and have a look in there. Oh. So this is the driving position of a Class 142. It's a pretty good view ahead actually, but the driver tended to get the worst of things when it came to the nodding donkey effect. But anyway, one of the reasons we chose this particular unit to video was because we quite like the livery. This is the first Northwestern, well originally the Northwestern train scheme, the kind of nice kind of night blue with the gold stars. Also painted on Class 158s for their services from London. But anyway, the Class 142s actually were delivered in some very striking paint schemes from new. There was the Greater Manchester orange and brown. There was the skipper livery, the famous skipper livery down, which is chocolate and cream down in the southwest. And then there was the provincial light blue and dark blue. All of them were iconic. And as a young spotter, well, they blew my mind basically compared to the corporate blue that had been hanging around for so long. Later in lives, they got quite a few nice liveries. In fact, for me, I don't think there's a bad paint scheme on a 142. Some of my favourites include Northern Spirit, the final Northern Rail scheme with a very kind of triple purple colour, whatever you want to call it. There's also the various liveries inspired by the regional railways, including Greater Manchester's later scheme and the Tyne and Wear livery. So come with me and we'll look at the inside of the unit. It's basically a bus, really. So I'm sitting here in what was originally the lockable parcels compartment. The doors have been removed now, but this area could have been locked off at certain points. But otherwise, this unit is fairly in as-built condition. There are a few little bits that have changed, but you can still see the bus seats are here, and we'll show you some of the other ones later. But yeah, actually this brings back some real nostalgic vibes of me when I was a kid, travelling on buses around my local area in East Anglia. So welcome to the passenger compartment of the Class 142. It's actually quite spacious in here, and there's a reason for that. A Leyland National bus, on which these were originally based, just 8 foot wide. But this is 8'6", which meant BR could fit in 2+3 seating, this lovely bus seating where I'm sitting on here. Now, the reason they were able to do that was because Leyland rejigged their factory in Workington with 2 extension pieces at the top. And that gives us the lovely interior we have now. So as we mentioned earlier, this is the original interior. Other rail buses, they received 2+3 seating with high back seating, and others even received quite luxurious 2+2 seating. By the mid to late 2000s, the Pacers are really starting to show their age. Most of the fleet was congregated up north under the Trains Northern, later Northern Rail brand, while there were still pockets of resistance down in South Wales. Some even went back to the southwest under First Great Western from 2007 to cover for Class 150 refurbishment. The end came in the 2010s, actually in 2019, when the final units were withdrawn. However, they've actually turned out to be the perfect unit for preservationists, with lines all around the country adopting them and using them on a regular basis. Even better, quite a few have been repainted in their original liveries, and if you look around the country, you'll find them in Greater Manchester liveries, the Regional Railways, Provincial, and First North Western, just like this. So anyway, that's the prototype history. Let's talk about the models next. So if you follow me outside, we'll get the models out and we'll show you what they're all about. So these are our first EP samples, all decorated up in the first 4 paint schemes that we're releasing in the first run. We have the Greater Manchester scheme, which was delivered on the first 14 units. We have the Chocolate and Cream Great Western Skipper livery, which was delivered on the next 13 units. We have the classic Provincial light blue, dark blue and white scheme, which the rest of the fleet was delivered in. And finally, we're doing Northern Rail, which, as we said earlier, the vast majority of the fleet wore towards the end of its life. So just like the real thing, our rail bus is a 2-car unit. Both cars are powered and they are connected via a 10-pin plug. We don't have it on this sample yet, these are still early development samples, but they're connected via a 10-pin plug that connects all the sound, track power and DCC commands between them. So we're only using one DCC decoder for the whole unit. It's quite important in order to keep costs down. Of course, this being a Accurascale model, these have full illumination. So we have the passenger compartment is illuminated, and that's controllable by the wand and by DCC. We have the driver's cab interior, which is also illuminated and switchable. And we have front and rear tail lights and of course a switchable headlight as well. We've also gone the extra mile and we've done both types of light cluster. So you have the original type with the small square lozenge style marker lights on the end, and we have the LED style versions, which were fitted in their later lives, although that variation doesn't picture in our first run. The models actually have 2 PCBs. We have a PCB in the floor, which controls all of the mechanism and stuff like that. We also have a PCB in the roof. That's where the speaker currently lives, and also has the capacitors and the DCC decoder. We've done lots of variations on the Class 142 as well. So when they were built, there are actually 2 different roof types. There is a 10 rib roof, as seen here on the chocolate and cream version, and the rest of them have the 3 rib roof, which was the later edition fitted to the last 50 units. We also have all the different destination displays I mentioned earlier, and we have other variations such as the original equipment area around here and the later version as fitted to the northern units, which has the sanding pipes. You'll also find the different doors. This is the original style with the 4-leaf door, while the northern version has the 2-leaf door. And we've also done the revised heater arrangement, which can be found here. And there's the extra emergency door pull rings, which are found either side of the later doors. On the northern version, there are a few extra differences again. So you can see it has the NRN roof pod, and also we have the plated roof pod. This is basically a standard Leyland National roof pod. On the original ones, there was 2 louvers either side which were open. On the later versions, they just plated it over. For the first run, we're doing the original interiors with the bus style seating, and that can be found on all of the 9 numbers that we've chosen for the first run. There are also a few other changes at the front ends. We have both styles of pilot, which have with or without the driver's steps, which we use for accessing the front ends. And also, while the models will come with the tension lock coupler fitted, we also provide a separate fascia part to block over the NEM coupler and a miniature representation of the BSI coupler. So for pricing and availability, please look at the description box below, or you can surf over to accurascale.com. We'll have all the information on all the various different numbers and liveries that are available. Finally, I'd just like to say a huge thanks to the Chasewater Railway for hosting us today, for letting us take a run out on the Class 142, Actually getting a cab ride in this has been a bit of a dream for me, so thanks guys, I really appreciate it. So thanks, and well, I'll see you in the next video later in the year.